they haven't been working out and like, yeah, I can make it in 5 to 6 days a week and I'm ready to just get my ass kicked. When I tell them that, no, we're going to take this gently so you don't kind of quit after 2 weeks when the motivation is gone and you're just like, I don't feel like doing this anymore.
What's up, fam?
Wow.
I am Coach Jay. I am here with
Coach Katie.
and
Coach Wendy.
and
Coach Rebecca.
So it is the 5th of July. We're back. You guys up from the fireworks last night? I know you were. Had fireworks on your
That's right.
block.
That's right. For
Fireworks show.
many hours.
Did they,
yes.
does that happen where you live?
Yeah,
Wendy?
my neighbor was doing all that. But
Yeah.
I was fine. I mean, I'm used to it. That's what happens here at the 4th of July.
None of that in our
Happened to you?
neighborhood. No, not at all.
I mean, yeah, you're like up there.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure you saw a nice view with all the stuff.
We saw some fireworks. Yeah, it's this. It's a funny thing though. Fireworks have been illegal for what, like 12 years, 15 years, something like
You
that.
never know
A
it.
long time.
Yeah, and they're just everywhere all the time.
I think no police came down my block. I think they just gave up. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it's there's other things they can be doing. All right, so I was thinking, we have a lot of clients that we've worked with, and we find that there's some sort of common things that kind of hold them back from getting to where they need to be, and we've gotten pretty good at helping people overcome some of those common things. So I thought today we would talk about what I believe are 6 beliefs that hold people back from their fitness goals. Right?
Jay's beliefs.
My
Jay's beliefs of the beliefs.
my belief of the beliefs.
Okay.
So it's been, I think, almost over 10,000 people that we've worked with here. And we hear kind of the same thing or the same sort of category of things every time. So I categorized them into 6. None of you guys have heard any of these, so you might be in violent disagreement, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Violent disagreements.
That's not right.
You just hit me with a bottle rocket or something like that. So the first one, the first belief that I think comes up quite a bit is people believe that getting to their fitness goals is going to be easy. Right? So they think it's going to happen fast. They think it's going to happen easy. You know, they come to the gym a few days a week. They eat a couple of, meals with broccoli, and then it's like all good. It's going to be easy. Or maybe if they're like an advanced athlete, I'm going to find this like perfect drill that's going to get me to, be able to do a handstand. Right? Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. All right. So the point of this is not that you just all agree with me.
Yes, next. Well, so I was thinking, I don't know if easy is the right word. I would say magical. Like it's almost like, because I hear that kickoff call where people say they acknowledge, I know this is going to be challenging. I'm not sure, if 8 weeks I'll really get there. Like there is that acknowledgement of how hard it's going to be. But I think there's some amount of like spell casting they think that we're going to do that like at the 8-week mark, I thought you guys would have the magic spell or something. Like, I don't know how to put it because there is acknowledgement that it's going to be challenging. And so maybe it's like it's like the answer is actually simple, like show up, be consistent, do the thing. The hard part is actually doing it. Yeah. And so the realization is like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it almost feels like what I notice is there is a moment of catharsis for a lot of people, like in making a decision. Like deciding to come here is like a big deal for people. Like I'm finally making that decision to like put myself first and do the thing. And that feels like such an emotional, we see it on sales calls, it's a very emotional moment for people when they just make that decision to do it. And so much so that sometimes it feels like, okay, like that was the hard thing. And now I'm just kind of like going to show up and you're going to guide me the rest of the way. But actually like the moment of catharsis is only the beginning and the hard things are what is to come. And I think what you're describing is this sense of like people realizing that there is no magic pill and there's still like their own, they still have to take responsibility for their actions. Like just because they hired us doesn't mean that we're like able to watch and control their every move.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When people sign up, they have made the hardest decision, but they think that's the only hard decision.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
There's
right.
a lot of other hard decisions that
Yeah.
have to be made. And a lot of them, it's like things you don't expect. Like, I need to talk with my roommate and tell them not to, bring so much crappy food in the house. Or I need to talk with my boss and negotiate that I can go to the gym early in the morning or whatever. Right? Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's that one big hard thing, but you have to keep doing all the little hard things as well. What I think is that the people who come in hoping for the best but are preparing for the worst, those are the ones that are most successful, right? It's like, I really hope this is the thing that's going to work. And also I'm going to clean out my kitchen and clear my schedule to make sure I can do the sessions and make sure that I get enough sleep and say no to all of the invites to happy hour and that kind of thing. And it's like, if you're preparing for that, then you're much more likely to be successful. Right?
Yeah.
The other thing I think is, we talk a lot about new people, but I think this applies a lot to people learning new skills, right? It's like you watch somebody doing a muscle up and you're like, oh yeah, you just do this and then this and then this, right? Like it's really simple, right? And I mean, yeah, it's pretty simple, but it's not easy. It actually takes a lot of strength that maybe you haven't developed over time, and it might take you thousands of attempts to get there.
Yeah.
And when people expect it to be easy, then they're frustrated when it's not easy, and then they start to have other issues. But if you expect it to be difficult and you're hoping like, well, maybe this will get me there faster or whatever, then you find that it actually works a little bit better.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think those gymnastic skills are like the most surprising for people, because when you watch people who do them smoothly, it actually does look effortless.
Yeah.
And so there's this idea of like, well, shoot, Wendy can do the thing, and like, hey, maybe I can lift twice as much as Wendy, right? Like, I should be able to do the thing too. And it's like, maybe you can, but it's like with these specific positions and the timing and all of this stuff, it's like, that's all stuff that takes so much practice.
Right.
There's a lot of boring work
That's right.
you
Yeah.
have to do to like.
That's what
get
we're
there.
doing in our gymnastics class.
Yeah.
Boring stuff.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, so number 2, actually, speaking of that, is that they have or that they lack some sort of natural ability or character trait.
Totally.
Right? So people believe that they either have this ability to be able to do a handstand or they don't, right? And, Wendy might have the ability to do it, but I don't. Or they have some sort of character trait like, I'm, whatever, I have no discipline, or, well, maybe that's a bad one because that comes up later. But like, maybe I'm just like, I have a sweet tooth, or,
Totally.
whatever. Like I get so stressed and I have to do this thing. It's like they say these things and it just means that they don't even want to play the game. Does that make sense?
So that they say that after they start or before?
So these are beliefs that just hold people back from reaching their goals.
From reaching their goals.
Yeah.
I see.
So, if you think you don't have some sort of natural ability, let's say you think that you are like uncoordinated or you just don't have upper body strength.
Yeah.
You're not even going to make an attempt to do some sort of like pull up or double under. Right?
Yeah. Or what I see, like, actually, this just happened to me this morning. So I'm working with a client who's working on getting push-ups. And like, we just retested their push-up, and they're like so much closer than when we tested it 8 weeks ago. They've been working on it. And what was crazy is we were talking about it today and doing a workout and preparing for workout, and we just did this test and we just celebrated the progress, right? And still, like, the repeat was like, oh, I'm just bad at push-ups. Like, I'm just like, this is still, it's like, because I don't have this skill yet, it's like, I'm bad at it until I get the thing. But the problem with that is that, like, if you have that belief and you aren't able to see the progress that you've made, then you may stop, inches before you're able to actually get the thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Or you just won't put the effort into the drills because you're like, I can't do this, right? So you don't put the effort into the drills, so you don't actually develop the facility to do it. Versus like thinking, well, if I work hard enough at this, I'll be able to do it. Then you'll put the effort into the drills. Like, I've seen that too. People will do the same drill over and over again, kind of like half-assed. And it's like, then they're wondering why they don't get it after 3 months.
Yeah.
You ever see that?
Well, yes. With
Yeah.
with some of my clients, like with my gymnastics class, right?
Yeah.
And this is why I switched the sessions, because that's what I was seeing, right? We were doing the sexy stuff and it wasn't clicking in because they were missing like the boring stuff, right? Like the ring pulls and, the holds too, right? The stability and all that stuff. And recently I've seen all of them just made tremendous, like just different the way they're moving with their gymnastics.
Yeah.
And a part of it because, they're getting a ton of coaching from Katie and some of you guys too as well. But I also think they're also putting in the non-sexy stuff, right? And then it kicks in. It might take a while, but it does. And I think sometimes it's not being patient and you're seeing the person next to you just cranking 10 bar muscle ups and you're like, what the heck, man? I just got one. Why can't I do that?
Yeah.
So it's like a little bit of that too as well. I think the other thing too is I always tell them like, well, you don't know how long it took Jay to get 10 bar muscle ups. Like if you ask him, I'm pretty sure he's not going to tell you, well, I got 1 and then I got 9 in a row.
Yeah.
Right. Like
yeah.
that. No, he had to still do like the boring stuff. So he was able to do like that amount.
Yeah.
So I think also they just think that coaches are superheroes who are not humans like they are. Sometimes I think that's another part of it.
Yeah. If people knew the truth, I
Yeah.
don't think that they would actually maybe want to do the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's like 1,000 million reps.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really hard.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And then that can get to their head and it's like, well, I'm never going to get there if that's the case. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's like, you've heard of the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. I know you've heard of this, right? All right. So bonus point. Anyone remember the author?
Carol Dweck.
Ah, nice job.
Boom.
So she wrote this book called, I think it was Mindset. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. Have you heard of this?
No.
No. Okay. So basically she posits that there are 2 different types of mindsets. So one is a fixed mindset where you say, I either have this ability or I don't, right? So I'm either coordinated or I'm not. And if you walk into the gym and we're doing, double unders and you think that you are uncoordinated, then you will, and you go into that class thinking I'm not coordinated, then you won't put any effort into the drills because you just have it in your mind, I'm uncoordinated, I'll never get this, right? And so no matter how much time we spend with you, you will still think you're uncoordinated. And I've seen this, even if you get a double under, you'll say, well, I got that thing, but I'm not coordinated for these other things.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's like a fixed mindset, right? And this is her sort of hypothesis. But people with a growth mindset, they'll see the double under and they'll say something like, well, if they can do it, then I can do it, right? And if I find out the right drills or, I practice it enough, then I'll be able to do it, right? And they did a bunch of studies with kids, and they kind of assessed the fixed versus growth mindset using a questionnaire. And then they found over time that kids with a growth mindset did better in school and they did better in work. They got into better schools, that kind of thing. Versus the one with a fixed mindset, they had higher anxiety. They, didn't do as well. Like if something went wrong, they sort of fell apart, et cetera, et cetera. So the book goes on to talk about how to kind of cultivate a growth mindset. And it comes down to like, making small steps towards something and then celebrating progress, right? So we talk about this in terms of like bright spots. It's like, okay, we're going to do double unders. Let's try a single under. Okay, yeah, you did 10 single unders. Great job. You know what I mean? It starts to slowly change how you look at things, right?
Yeah.
So, this is one of the things that when people come in thinking they have or they lack some sort of natural ability, so even if you think you are coordinated, you come in you thinking I'm super coordinated, and then you kind of do double unders or those stupid crossover things. Oh my God, I got so many like whip marks on my legs. If I'm thinking I'm coordinated and then I run into something that I'm not able to do, I'm going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just going to tear my ego down.
Right.
It's just like, I thought I was so coordinated.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
So another way of kind of reframing the way you think or say things, I was actually thinking about this in my walk here, like this idea, I am good at weightlifting, for example. And just, I was thinking about how I describe that and, going into a growth mindset framing, I have become good at weightlifting.
Yeah.
And so just looking at that person next to you, doing the 10 bar muscle ups, they have become really good at bar muscle ups.
Yeah.
And just adding that become to anything really. Like I can say that about Wendy in gymnastics. Yeah, she's good at gymnastics. If I saw her 15 years ago, she wasn't good at gymnastics.
Terrible.
So Wendy has become good at gymnastics, and it acknowledges all the hard work that you've put into this as well. And just using those words, like, with yourself trying to do the push-up. Wow, they've become good at push-ups. I too can become good at push-ups.
Yeah. It's exactly right.
Really
And I think that's the approach, that if you come in thinking that you have all the abilities that you need to have to be able to do something, and it's just a matter of deciding whether you want to put in the work or not, then you have a much more likelihood of reaching that goal. Right. So, all right. So number 3. So number 3 belief that hold people back from their fitness goals is that it's going to happen on their timeline. So they think they're going to get it in 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 10 sessions or, whatever it is, right? And it's this idea of like, I'm going to dial things up. I'm going to do everything perfectly. I'm going to do every drill. And then I'm going to get this thing by this date.
Is that like going white knuckle?
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Is that right?
That's right. That's white knuckling it.
Going white knuckle. I'm here for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, there's almost no fitness goal that I've had that I've gotten there in the time that I wanted to get there.
Yeah.
Like, it always takes, sometimes you get there faster, but usually it takes longer than you think it's going to take.
Totally.
Right. And it's usually more frustrating. And life usually gets in the way in some way or another. Like, if you're like, hey, I need to lose 10 pounds in 6 weeks, and then you get sick halfway through, you may not get there.
Yeah.
Right. Or, just something happens, you lose your job, whatever, you may not get there.
Yeah.
And so if you can kind of let go of the idea that there needs to be some fixed timeline, it's a great idea to have a timeline on your goals, but make it a loose timeline. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That just puts a lot more pressure onto yourself too as well. And then when things don't happen that timeline, then you feel like a failure, and then there goes your motivation, right? Then it's like that talk like, oh, I'm never gonna get there, so why am I even trying?
Yeah, exactly. Or like, I'm gonna master the bar muscle up by the time the open comes around.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. That's a great target because the open is 9 months from now, so you have plenty of time to work on it. But it's really more about how many practice sessions that you're going to put in, right? And you're unlikely to change your entire life to get that bar muscle up in the next 3 weeks by doing 100 million drills.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. All right. Next one, number 4, and this is one you've heard a lot, that they don't have the motivation or discipline. Right? So people believe that they don't have the motivation to reach their goals, or they don't have the discipline to reach their goals. You guys have heard this a lot.
Definitely. Oh my God, all the time.
Yeah. And what do you say to people when they say that?
How often do you have this conversation with your client of like, oh, they tell you that, how did the thing go that we were working on last week? And like, it always starts out negative for one. What went well? Oh, well, actually, I did 3/4 of the thing that we said we were going to do, right? But then it's like, what would have helped you do that last little bit? I was like, I just needed more willpower and discipline. Like, it's always, like, almost always the first response. I should have just, like, been more disciplined about it.
Yeah. Willpower, discipline, motivation.
Yeah. Isn't that what people say?
Yeah.
Or is that just me?
Yeah.
All the time.
You look like you're going somewhere.
Well, because I'm like thinking right now, it's
Yeah.
like kind of almost every single session. Yeah.
So here's the thing. Have you ever heard this, Coach?
Yeah, I just had a session where I was talking about motivation. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Every single person that we have ever worked with has enough discipline and enough motivation to reach their fitness goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single
100%.
one. Right? I've never seen anyone that has walked in here and asked for help and did not have the motivation. If you are listening to this, you have the motivation to reach your fitness goals. You know how hard it is to listen to this podcast? Like, you have to have a phone, you have to go to the app, you have to go find the app, or you have to go get it on YouTube, and then you got to know how all that stuff works, right? Like, there's a lot of steps required.
We got to get through our intro.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the easiest part to get in.
But-
to get through.
There's a lot of steps required to actually even be to the point where you're listening to this thing, right? And the thing is, you apply your motivation and your discipline to the things that matter most to you. And right now, the thing that matters most might be getting up early, to brush your teeth and then starting work.
Yeah.
Right. It might matter more to make breakfast for your kids. It might matter more to do whatever. Right. But you have the actual motivation and discipline. Right.
Yeah.
So if you can accept that you have the baseline of this, and I tell people this all the time, like, did you graduate high school? More than likely, yes. Right? Okay, great. Have you ever done anything you were proud of? Yes. Did it take you more than 3 weeks? Yes. Okay, great. Like, you're able to do hard things over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Right? And most people have many stories like that in their lives. Like, they went to school for 12 years, right? And, some people went to college, some people went to graduate school. You can do hard things. So you have the ability to do it. It's just, what do you choose to spend that ability on? Right? Because you don't have the ability to do everything. You have the ability to do 1 to 3 things.
This would be the pots on the stove.
Yeah,
That's right.
You can only dedicate so much time.
Exactly. So the question to ask is, maybe what do you have to give up to be able to do this thing? The problem is not that you're not motivated. It's that, you ran out of meals and you didn't cook.
Yeah.
Right? Because you didn't want to go to the store because you were tired one day.
Right.
Right? So you might have to give up a little bit of sleep to go to the store to get your
Right.
meal prep. And then you might have to give up an hour of time that you might spend watching Netflix to prep your meals.
Right.
Right? Or shit, you can watch Netflix while you prep your meals. If you follow my meal plan, you barely even need to look at stuff. Right? But you get
your sleep.
Yeah, exactly. But like, so I think everyone has the discipline and the motivation to do it. And if you tell yourself you don't, then it's like an easy out, and it gives yourself an excuse not to have the hard conversation of, what did I choose to do instead?
Yeah. Or like just creates this like nebulous sense of like, there's actually nothing actionable that comes out of, I'm not motivated or I'm not disciplined enough. It's like, well, what does that mean that you're going to do differently next week? Like, what specifically?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, it feels super nebulous.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to, I don't know, episodes ago when we were talking about the reticular activating system of saying, I am not motivated, I am not dedicated. And so then the next time something comes around, you're just finding more evidence that I am not, of course, I'm not dedicated. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just feeds into itself. Yeah.
And that kind of comes back to the conversation you have at the beginning. It's just like, if you're going in thinking this is going to be easy, then you're not going to be willing to give anything up. You're not going to be willing to have any of those hard conversations, right? You're not going to be willing to say like, hey, I'm going to have to skip happy hour this week because that's hard, right? And you're going to go to happy hour and then you're going to go, well, I just didn't have the discipline this week. And it's like, well, actually, like, what was your fundamental expectation that this was just going to happen if you did it 5 days a week? Maybe that's the problem. Let's dig into that, right? Okay, well, great. You wanted to do this 5 days a week. Fantastic. It's going to take you 3 years instead of 6 months. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Great. Right. Then we make that choice and then we move forward with it. Yeah. All right. So we've got 2 more. So this last one, I know you guys are the second to last one, the fifth belief is that they need to do it all or do nothing. So this sort of all or nothing. You need to either be perfect or fuck it.
Totally.
Have you ever heard that?
100%. Every time. Well, okay, so perfect example. Having a conversation with a client, this was last week, and there was a sense of like, one of the things they've been working on is preparing more of their food. And when we sort of like were digging into this like sense of wanting to have more control over their food, it was like on a scale, like what's 0 control and then what's 10 out of 10 control, okay, let's define those. And then it's like, do you really need 10 out of 10 control? And I was like, well, actually, no, I'm okay with like preparing one meal instead of preparing all 3 in advance. And like, I can kind of make do doing the other 2 on the fly. Great. But it was that taking it down that actually helped the action happen. Because like with the sense of, okay, I'm working on preparing things. That means I have to prepare everything, and then nothing happens because it's just too overwhelming and too big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just doing a goal setting session, and didn't be as vague as possible, but the goal is to run, and it's like they're not running at all right now, and the goal is to run. And so my first question, the plan. So what can you do? And it's like, oh, this. I'm like, okay, you haven't been running, and so now you're going to do all of this. And so, I tried to just talk it through, like, what does it really look like? So then what are you doing in the next 48 hours?
Yeah.
And then it became like the reality set in, like, oh, well, I don't think I can run that much.
Yeah.
And so if I had just left it at like, okay, this is the plan, and not let the reality set in, we would have just, nothing would have happened.
Yeah.
Because it's just too overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so when the plan, or like this idea of what you think the plan needs to be, and I hear this a lot when people do their, kickoff calls, it's like they haven't been working out, and like, yeah, I can make it in 5 to 6 days a week, and I'm ready to just get my ass kicked and do all these things. And it's almost like when I tell them that, no, we're gonna take this gently and ease you in, so you don't kind of quit after 2 weeks when the motivation is gone, and you're just like, I don't feel like doing this anymore. So I don't even remember what the question was
No,
anymore.
All or nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's too much, you're more likely to not do it at all.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's like there's this idea, it's like you're either on your shit or you're off your shit. You've heard that. You've said that one before. You've heard that one before. Yeah.
I said that?
Or that you would do every single drill to get something, or you're doing no drills, right? Or that, like, oh, I need to do whatever, 45 minutes of muscle up practice today, or it doesn't count. It's like, okay, are you going to do that every single day? Because you're probably not going to survive that after a week or two. Or that you need to be some like professional fitness kind of person, and you need to have all the supplements or whatever, or, you just sit around and watch TV all day, right? And it's like, the thing is, there's a value, we've talked about this, there's value in like turning the volume to 10 sometimes.
Yeah.
But if that's the only thing that you can do, then that means you're either 0 or 10.
Yeah.
And like, it's really disruptive to turn the volume to 10. Like, you kind of have to say no to everything else.
Yeah.
Because like nothing in your life right now is at a 10, for most people. I mean, if you're a new mom, baby's at a 10, right? But, 6 months in, maybe baby starts sleeping a little bit. Now that goes down to an 8 or 9. And it's like, you actually work hard to not turn everything to a 10. So if you make it a 10, then everything else has to go, right? That's actually a great analogy for like mom. It's like, okay, cool. You're going to do all of this stuff. Pretend it's like when you first had your baby. You can do nothing else. Like, everything you're doing is around this.
Yeah.
Everything else has to go.
Yeah.
And most of them will say, "Ooh, I don't think so."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, let's start with some moderate habits
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
will bring a 5, and then you'll be able to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I see this a lot in like good food, bad food labeling too. And it's like, okay, if I'm on my diet, that means I'm never having a donut, because I can't control myself around them. You ever hear this? It's like, I can't have just one. It's like, oh, interesting, right? So I'm not going to ever have any. And then that inevitably breaks down at some point. And then you're having all the donuts. And so there's like an interesting like learning of how do you even interact. I know, at least for me, when I was in recovery, like there was a lot of learning around how do I even interact with these foods where I harbor this belief that like I'm either having 0 of it or I'm having all the bags of it,
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I get real lit up when people say that they can't do something.
Yeah.
Because when you say you can't, that's a belief. Like, it's just a belief, right? Has there ever been anyone in the history of the world that's only eaten one donut? If the answer is yes, then you can probably do it too.
Yeah.
It's just that you choose not to, and that's fine. But just say that. Don't say I can't, right? Or it's like, oh, I can't run. Okay, cool. Oh, I'm having issues here. Has there ever been anyone in the history of the world that has been in worse shape than you that has run? If the answer is yes, then okay, cool. You choose not to, maybe for various reasons, but don't tell me that you can't.
Yeah.
right? Because you just limit that. Like now you'll never be able to run for the rest of your life. What kind of life is that? Like, is that the life you want?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the life I want. Maybe I don't want to run every day or, 3 miles a day or whatever your client said they wanted to do.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, yes.
Yeah. But, it's like that using those words is really indicative of a belief that, you can break if you choose to, right? All right, last one. Last belief that holds people back from their fitness goals. And this is a tough one. I don't know that you guys will agree with this one or everyone will agree with it. But the belief that there is a destination, right? That the goal is actually matters. So this is a tough one because here's the thing. Like you've all reached fitness goals in the past, right?
Yeah.
So did you stop working out after you got to those goals?
No.
Yeah. You picked a new goal, right? And then you went for that one. And ultimately, it's a game that you're playing. It's not necessarily a destination that you're getting to. You're not going to be happier. Your life is not going to be complete when you lose 15 pounds. It's just one of the games that you're playing. And when you recognize that, then it makes it easier for you to stick with it longer because you're not wrapping all of your identity up into reaching this destination. Does that make sense?
That's so good because I run into that a lot with clients.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, great. We lost 30 pounds. That's what we said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, not really. Because your goal is to stay at this weight, right? And that requires a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like not only 8 weeks, it can require like a year sometimes for you to maintain that weight.
Yeah.
And they're very confident they can do it on their own. And I see it over and over again. It's like, well, the weight comes back, right?
Yeah.
So that is like such a true statement.
Yeah.
But they don't see it until like, even when they have been into that cycle over and over again, like they lost the weight, they gained the weight, they
This time
lost
will
the
be
weight.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
right.
So it's
Yeah.
like, this is like a long-term thing.
Yeah.
It's not only 8 weeks or it's not only 2 months. Like that takes sometimes even like up to a year.
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
Yeah.
I was thinking of this analogy. You ever played this game, Chutes and Ladders?
Oh, so good.
Yes.
How does that work?
She's not from here. She doesn't play the
That's right.
Yeah.
board games.
So it's like a
I'm not from here. Where am I from?
Well, oh wait. Okay.
So it's a big board, and you spin a little thing. A little spinner that gives you a number from 1 to 6 or something, right? And so when you spin it, then you can move forward. And like I think there's like 100 squares in the thing. There's 100, right?
Yeah.
And on some of the squares, there's a ladder, and when you get to the ladder, it skips you up.
do something nice, like save a cat.
You skip up
haven't
to a
played
higher
this.
thing. So like let's say you get a 6 or whatever, you go on number 6. There's a ladder. It will take you up to number 34, right?
You put away the dishes. That would be.
I don't know that part.
Yeah, that's how it was.
You
for-
go down a ladder. You go down a chute because you do something bad, like I don't know.
Tell a lie.
Yeah, or throw a rock.
Was
and
that
it
part of the
breaks.
game?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're teaching children how to what.
I don't think that's part of the game anymore.
Yeah.
That is totally
You cheat
part
on
of
a
it.
test. Like
That
there are all
is
kinds
the,
of yeah.
That sounds like the Catholic
We
version.
played the old school.
Paint on a wall. You go down.
There's a lot of shame involved.
Guess I'm going down the chute of life.
That's right.
So anyways, like at any given thing, you could either go up a ladder or you go down a little slide. And if you go down a slide, it takes you back like closer to the beginning. If you go up a ladder, it takes you closer to the
I
end.
have this game at home with the stuff. I'm gonna bring it.
Yeah, I want to see this new PC version of Chutes and Ladders.
Wow. In the UK, it's called Snakes and Ladders. So it's even more Catholic because the snake bites you and you fall down.
You ate the apple.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, the point is like, you're kind of, if you think about we'll see if this analogy lands. You think about your health as like, you're rolling this thing and you're moving along, and sometimes you find something that really works and you go up the ladder,
Right.
and sometimes you have a slip up and then you fall down a chute,
right.
But when you get to 100, it doesn't end. Like there's another 100 squares,
Yeah.
right? And it's just like part of the journey is you're going to have times where things are going really well and you skip ahead, times when things don't go well and you kind of slide back. But the point is to keep playing, because if you walk away from this game, it's over, right? It's like your health is like, you don't have your health, you are not here. You're dead, right? And so you got to keep playing the game in one form or another, right? So you might as well look at it as a game and like, okay, my game right now is I'm going to lose 15 pounds, right? Or I'm going to do a muscle up. Okay, now I've got a muscle up. Now what else do I want to do, right?
Yeah.
Or, I was sick for 3 months. Now I want to get back into shape. All right, what is that game about, right? I want to be able to do, deadlift 200 pounds like I used to.
Yeah.
Right, what's that game about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
I don't know about that analogy.
No, I like it. I like it.
I'm just thinking of shoots and ladders.
Well, I recently bumped into a relative that I haven't seen in 20 years, and she was like, "Oh, I've seen your Instagram, and I've seen your lifting videos, blah blah blah. Like you're all set. Like, so what? Like, what's the secret?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What's the secret?" It's like, "Yeah, what diet did you do?" I was like, "I'm not on a diet. Like, I'm really not." And she's like, "What do you mean?" Like, I feel like her belief was that once you get there, that's pretty much it. You don't have to put any more work, right? Like, you can go back to your old habits of, eating out 3 times a week like you were before. And that doesn't hurt you. That hamburger is not going to get you back to that weight.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, I pretty much, told her what I was doing. She's like, "What? That sounds like a diet." And I'm like, "No, it's actually my lifestyle. It's like the normal for me. And this is how I'm able to maintain, how it is." But yeah, there's like, this belief is like, once you're there, it's like, okay, good. I don't have to put in the work no more. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm set.
Yeah. I mean, more importantly, that you're happy with it.
Yeah.
Like what I'm doing now, I'm happy to do that and continue doing it.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like, oh man, I really wish I could have burgers for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th night in a row.
Yeah.
Like,
so it kind of took me back. I'm like, you see my food prep as a diet? Ouch.
Right. Anything else to add here?
Well, I think there's like the tricky thing about that one is that it's like you need the goal to direct the energy in some way, even though the goal doesn't get you what you actually might think it's going to get you.
Yep.
It's like you do need it to direct, to give you some direction. But actually, I feel like you've put this the best that I've like heard it, which is at the end of the day, the goal directs your action, and through your action, you become a type of person.
Right.
Right. And so like that's actually the coolest thing about reaching the goal. It's like, when you got whatever, you PR'd your lift, like it was less about feeling good about that number and more like, what it took to get there, It's like, that's what you end up feeling proud about.
Yeah.
And that's like,
you're just describing, it's like, you're the kind of person that eats, that preps their food every week and eats a balance of vegetables and fruits and protein and all that kind of stuff. Maybe you weren't that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the goal sort of helped you get there. Yeah. Excellent.
That's right.
All right. So the 6 beliefs. Number 1, that it will be easy, right? It's you can't think that it's going to be easy. I mean, you can, but expect that it's not going to be easy for you, right? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Number 2, that they have or they lack some sort of natural ability. None of us are naturals, I don't think. Are you a natural?
I'm naturally right-handed.
I'm naturally white.
And I'm so good at being right-handed. I don't know.
Number 3 is that it's going to happen on their timeline. It's not going to happen exactly on your timeline. Things are going to come up and just make your timeline a little more flexible and just focus on continuing to do the thing. Number 4, that they don't have the motivation or discipline. You all have the motivation and discipline. You all have it. You absolutely do have it. It's just a matter of what you're applying it to and if you choose to apply it to this. Number 5 is that it's all or nothing. And then number 6, that the destination matters more than just playing the game. Awesome. All right.
good.
We solved it.
Write that book.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, we've got plenty of others. Go check out this one over here.